Welcome to the Today in History channel. In today's video we will talk about the day, April 23, 1564. William Shakespeare is born. English playwright and poet, William Shakespeare was born in Stratford-upon-Avon, England, in 1564. His father, John Shakespeare, was a wealthy merchant and local politician. He settled in London, where he soon gained fame and prestige as a theatrical author for the company Lord Chamberlain's Men, later known as King's Men, who owned two theaters successively, the Globe and Blackfriars. He also successfully represented at the court of Elizabeth I. His stay in the capital dates from 1590 to 1613, the year he stopped writing. He retired to Stratford and invested in London real estate, the fortune his works had brought him. In 1593, he published the poem Venus and Adonis, which received very good reception in London's literary environments. From his later poetic production, it is worth mentioning the Violation of Lucretia, 1594, and, above all, the Sonnets, 1609, with a loving theme and a masterpiece of Anglo-Saxon poetry. However, Shakespeare was fundamentally a playwright. His work 14 comedies, 10 tragedies, and 10 historical dramas covers the most varied themes in a vigorous and image-filled style. In his first works, the influence of Christopher Marlowe is appreciated. Most of his gay comedies and some of his dramas based on the history of England appeared before 1600. In the comedies of that period, as in Dream of a Summer Night, the fantasy and its poetic sense stand out above all. His extraordinary mastery of versification allowed him to differentiate the characters by the way of speaking, in addition to endowing his language with an almost colloquial naturalness. From 1600 onwards, Shakespeare published the great tragedies and the so-called black comedies. The works of that period deal with great themes with a more ambitious air, and the rhythm of their verses is becoming increasingly flexible and appropriate to the subject. The character's penetrating psychological treatment induces the viewer to identify with him. Thus, Hamlet reflects the moral dilemma between revenge and forgiveness, Othello, the cruelty of jealousy, and Macbeth, the fierce temptation to power. In his last works, starting in 1608, he changed his registration and entered the genre of tragicomedy, often with a happy ending in which he saw the possibility of reconciliation, as in Pericles. Shakespeare published only 16 of the works attributed to him in his lifetime. It is quite possible that some of his plays would have been lost if, a few years after his death, the first folio had not been published, a volume that compiles his theatrical work, and which would serve as the basis for all subsequent editions. Did you like the video? In the description you will find the blog link with the full article. Give an incentive by subscribing to the channel, liking, commenting, and sharing with your friends. Hugs. Until the next.